Welcome to episode 7 of Belharra, the birth story of a biotech podcast. I'm Jeff Younger, your host and the CEO of Belharra Therapeutics. In previous episodes, we focused in on the massive and game-changing platform that serves as the foundation of Belharra. But what's also clear is that the people driving the science and their passion for their work and for advancing meaningful medicines are the true heart and soul of our company. Our team, those passionate researchers, are the biggest reason we have such a promising future ahead of us. Today, I'm thrilled to talk with Kelly Chow, our head of people and operations, and incidentally, also the person who spearheaded the creation of this podcast. We'll talk about how purposeful and intentional culture building is critical for a biotech startup and how we approach that at Belharra. We'll also hear from several folks who are advancing our mission on a daily basis about what it's really like to be in the trenches here and to be part of that culture and part of that research organization. So let's get started. First, speaking with Kelly. Kelly, thanks for being on the podcast. It's great to have you.
Thanks, Jeff. It's great to be here.
So I want to talk about culture, I want to talk about its importance in building a biotech, but let's start with a little bit more about you. So where did you grow up? Where did you come from? And where were you pointed, professionally as you were exiting college?
Yeah. I was born in Evanston, Illinois, and grew up in the Bay Area. So I've lived in the Bay Area pretty much my whole life, except for a short stint that I did in New York when I was in pharma sales. All through college, or I guess at the beginning of college, I thought I wanted to be a physician. And my dad is a physician. My mom is a teacher. So growing up, I thought those were the only two career paths available to me. And
not bad career choices.
Yeah, no, both great career choices. I had a lot of respect for both of my parents and kind of the impact that they had on people, throughout their careers. So that was really influential to me. I actually wanted to be a pediatrician.
Okay.
And
so pre-med and headed towards being a doctor.
Yeah. And I just, the idea was I had been a candy striper in high school.
They didn't have those anymore?
I know. They did way back then when I was in high school. But the reason I wanted to do that was I think I wanted to be the bedside manner doctor. My dad was a great surgeon and he was quieter, and I think his skill was with a scalpel and that was his strength. I really wanted to be the doctor that made everything better for the patients. I put myself in the shoes of the patients that I would hang out with when I was a candy striper, and it was people who nobody wants to be hospitalized, right? They're all there. They're scared. They don't know what the future holds. And I wanted to be the person that comforted them and gave them kind of a sense of what was possible and, what the future could be. It was really disappointing when I kind of came to terms with the fact that I wasn't cut out to be a doctor. And I thought about what are the ways that I could still make a difference and have that kind of impact. And so that's sort of what led me into pharma and biotech. And it's that idea of, being in a place where the medicines that are having such an impact on patients' lives are being developed and created. I have had a long career in pharma and biotech, but mostly on the strategic marketing and commercial side, a little bit in operations. I did some stints as a chief of staff. So it's been more on the non-science side, but really having a great opportunity to collaborate with the scientists and who make it all possible.
So you've had a as you said, kind of a long career in our field, and you've had a number of different roles. But you've been gravitating towards where you are now. So describe, first of all, what's your role here at Belharra? And then what was it that sort of brought this together? Because you and I had a lunch and, light bulbs were going off for both of us. So talk a little bit about that, because this is sort of a new progression or continuation maybe of the progression you've been on.
Yeah. So I think my role at Belharra, I'm head of people and operations. In my mind, if I do my job well, it clears the path for the science, and it's easy for our researchers to get their work done and to do what they do best. And so my goal is to make their lives as easy as possible and to really help potentiate their skill and their talent. We've got such an amazing team, and I came here after our conversation because it was a huge opportunity to build something from the ground up. And I felt like you really wanted to build the kind of place where people could live up to all that they're capable of. And for me, I feel like we do a great job of hiring people, not just for their skills or their kind of experience on paper, but for their potential and what they're capable of. And that we've got a lot of big dreams and aspirations, that we've set out for ourselves. And I think we've got the right team to do it. And that just helping to be a part of that and build that kind of environment where people can really thrive is what really excites me.
You have a significant commitment in that direction that it's worth mentioning because it was part of what caught my ears when we were first talking. So you're working on your doctorate in this area. So tell us a little bit about that, because it's a remarkable extension of the passion you're talking about.
So I'm currently pursuing my doctorate. I'm still in the very early stages. I've got a couple more years to go. But I'm in the process right now of sort of figuring out what my master's thesis topic is going to be. And I'm really focused on this sort of concept of quiet confidence and really potentiating people who may not be the obvious leaders or the obvious I think in every industry and in every environment, whether it's school, right? You always see the students who raise their hand and have the answers quickly, and the teachers love them because they participate and they're engaged. And I think a lot of times there are students who are quiet and they're still very engaged, but they're not seen the same way. And I think in the work environment, it's the same thing. There are a lot of people, and I'm sort of fascinated by it because I feel like there are a lot of quieter scientists, or people researchers, and there are different personality types, obviously. But I had, done a short stint in sales, and I realized that I didn't have that phenotype. Like there are people who have that kind of personality and phenotype that make them really successful as salespeople, and they're sort of obvious. And I think what I've realized is there are a lot of leaders and people who have great ideas to contribute and things to contribute, but they maybe need to do it in a slightly different way. So my research is exploring kind of how to potentiate that kind of quiet confidence, and how do you even characterize it? Because I think people have a sense for what confidence looks like in the maybe more stereotypical sense. But I think there are a lot of people who are very resolute and confident in what they believe in, but they maybe just don't express it in the same.
Yeah, it manifests in different ways.
Manifests differently. Yeah. And so that's kind of what I'm exploring and trying to understand a little bit.
We could do a whole podcast on that, and I'm tempted, but I know that's not quite the task we set for us. Let's take a step back and talk a little bit more about the culture, the significance of it, and why you and I both believe it is maybe the single most important thing that we do here, and sort of the potentiator, to borrow your word, of maybe everything that's happening. So it's hard to sometimes put a finger on what is culture. And everybody has shifting definitions of it. But when we talk about it's important to have a really intentional culture at a startup like Belharra, what are you thinking about? What do you mean by that?
Yep. It's funny because at Belharra, we talk about our culture and our vibe. I mean, to me, our culture is really the combination of our values, what we believe in and what we hold dear. But it's coupled with our behaviors, what we actually do and our actions. And so I think a lot of times we talk about aligning what we say and what we do. And I think that's really important. And for me, culture really forms and takes shape when those values and behaviors are kind of multiplied by consistency, right? So when you say what you care about and what you believe in, you actually do it, and you do it consistently. And that sort of becomes the culture. So it's one thing to say, these are our values and this is what we care about and this is how we do things at Belharra. But if we don't actually do that and do it consistently,
they're just kind of five words on the wall. Yeah. And so why, some folks might say, gosh, that's all great, but we got more important things to do, right? In the first year or two of our company's life. And, we got to get the science up and running. We got to get it working. We got to hire the right people, get the right experiments running, develop the right external partnerships and investors and all this stuff. And we'll get to that when we get to it, but there's just higher priority things that we have to hit first. I know that's not how you see the world. And tell me a little bit about why. I'm
really mindful of the fact that I'm one of a few handful of people at Belharra who are not research focused. And I know that we are obviously a very high science research focused team. And I sometimes worry that what I'm working on feels fluffy to some of our researchers. And at the same time, I'm so passionate about it and committed to it, because I feel like if we do a good job of creating the right environment where there's trust and there's great teamwork and great communication, and we're creating this kind of culture where people trust that we'll do what we say we do, there's an impact on that, on both our employees and also to our external partners and everyone that we interact with. And so I feel like it is kind of the ultimate foundational potentiator for what we can do scientifically. And I feel like if we have a strong culture and engaged employees, it makes everything we do faster, more efficient, more powerful, and we have a lot more fun doing it. If you're going to work hard, you might as well have fun doing it.
Amen to that. And work on hard stuff, right? That's going to be challenging and at times demoralizing because it just takes so long to get right. I guess another part of it that I would highlight is that whether you choose to make culture a priority or not, you are going to be forming it. It is going to take shape. And so you can focus on other things and you're still going to be creating culture, or you can choose to focus on culture and be more intentional about it, and then have a bit more of a kind of hand in shaping it. So what are some of the things that we're trying to do here at Belharra that you'd want to highlight in terms of being intentional about the culture that we are building?
One of the first things that we did that I really loved is we had a sort of an offsite with our entire team back, what is it, over a year ago, 2 years ago, was it? And, we sat down as a group and kind of talked about what's our vision for Belharra, what's the world that we envision, what's our dream, if we could wave our magic wand, snap our fingers, right? What would the world look like in the future? And I think we were really aligned on purpose. And then, we had this shared sense of purpose to really creating this world where, no protein was undruggable and, where patients didn't have to hear that, sorry, there's no treatment for your disease. We don't have a solution for you. And I think that bonds us together, brings us together. And then we also spent time talking about what do we value? What do we care about? Why are we here? And I think going through that exercise as a team, it became really apparent that we are very aligned in what we care about. And I think at the very top of that pyramid or whatever is this idea of excellence. And I think you and Gary really instilled that in all of us. And it's sort of this culture of excellence where it matters, right? We want to do our best and bring our best in everything we do, whether it's the science or just day-to-day ways of working operations. Everything kind of cascades down from that. And, I think it was really clear that all of us valued trust. Kind of think of them as our people in science values. It's the values, the beliefs that we have about how we treat each other at Belharra, and then also how we want to be viewed by the outside world. And how we conduct our science. I think we want to conduct our science with the greatest, level of excellence and high standards in everything we do. I think we want to instill trust. We want to have trust between one another as colleagues. And then we also want our partners and the future patients that we're going to be helping. We want them to have that trust in anything that we bring to the world. It was really powerful because we created those values together and we landed on excellence, trust, teamwork, innovation, and impact. And I think, to me, that idea of impact, right? We want to change the world. We want to do great things together as a team. And we know that we can only do it together. We want to have a great time doing it. We're willing to grind and work hard and do the hard things and take on the challenges that people they seem impossible, but we want to make it so that they're not impossible. And that kind of environment is so energizing. I think the fact that we co-created these values together and aligned on them early on set us up with a great foundation and a great starting point. And it's, I think we all have skin in the game. And so every time we bring in someone new to the team, we want to make sure that they get our vibe and they share it and they have that. They want to help us nurture and continue to make that Belharra vibe even better. And I think that's one of the things that as we've been recruiting that has really stood out to people is there's something special about this place.
I do think we're both drinking the Kool-Aid deeply, but I do think we're also, there is objectively something going on here. And I think that for those that are listening in and maybe trying to, borrow some pearls of wisdom, talk for a minute about, at both the individual level and the team level, what are some of the most important things we're doing to try and bring out the best in people? Because I think that's part of our mantra around excellence is we're never going to be truly excellent unless we can really bring out the fullest potential in each person and then our fullest potential as a team. And you've taken a number of steps and sort of done things to consciously think about how to bring out an individual's best, but also how do we as a team really operate at our best?
Yeah. I mean, I think from an individual level, one of the things that I was thrilled that you were supportive of and we were able to do from day one is to provide. We've been partnering with Skill Cycle and offering individual coaching for every single one of our employees. And in every other place I've been, usually coaching is something that's done as sort of almost a punitive measure, or it's done, when someone needs help getting better at something, or it's reserved for executives or kind of, I don't know what, I guess people who are viewed as high potential. And so they are given the opportunity to work with a coach. And it's so powerful to have that sounding board and someone, that kind of thought partner who can help you to tap into what you're good at and how you can continue to improve and do it in an objective way. And so we have made this investment in everyone on our team to make that available to them. And not everybody's using it, but the people who are using it are really finding it to be valuable because again, it's kind of going back to what we say and what we believe in and what we actually do. I mean, this is us saying that we believe in our people and their potential and we want to invest in them. And we actually, we're doing that. And I think it's a really important just signal because I think everyone has potential everyone's a leader. You can lead from all different parts of the organization. It's not just the executives who are leaders.
Styles too.
Exactly. And different styles, but you can make an impact from anywhere in the organization. We want to tap into the strengths that each of us have and kind of get the most out of them. And it's sort of creating these win-wins, right? Where we're really investing in developing individuals. And we know that every individual on our team has something different to offer. And then also combining them together in this collective, power, which is our entire team. And so I think really focusing on just creating opportunities for people to kind of grow and develop in the ways that make sense for them, it actually benefits the company as well.
Yeah. And how about at the team level? Anything in particular you'd want to highlight there?
I think, at the team level, it's really about trust and communication and transparency. We can do so much more when we're aligned and we communicate well and we believe in one another. And I think, we've done a lot of, we have different offsites and different, activities that we try to do just because I think, we've been doing a lot of the community kind of give back to the community. And again, it's sort of that creating the win-win because those opportunities to feel like we're doing something to have a positive impact on the world around us is really important to all of us. And it also brings us closer together. And I think those relationships and those bonds also help us to be, happier, more engaged at work and do better work, do better science and be more productive.
Part of all this is that we're very selective about the people we hire. And I think that we have largely recruited for the kind of folks that want to unlock their full potential. They have that sort of intrinsic drive and ambition. But two of the things I know that we look for very carefully when we're interviewing candidates is, do they have a collaborative mindset, right? Or are they more of an individual achiever? Because you can have that ambition and that drive, but really direct it in a very solitary kind of way or prefer to do it in a more solitary fashion. We really need those people that love to be part of a team. And also those folks that I think see the value in that team effort. I wonder, though, also to that point of view that might say, gosh, Kelly, that sounds awesome. But that doesn't sound like it's really contributing to the bottom line, right? That sounds like something that's fluff, right? To your point that this is all cool, but is it really in keeping with the mission of the company, to build a world-class, chemoproteomic screening platform that produces game-changing medicines? And so what's your response to that perspective?
I am such a firm believer in the things that we focus on, communication and trust and feedback and all of those things. If we focus on some of those soft skills, it helps all of us to have more real conversations, get to quick kill decisions faster, to advance things faster, to be able to, somebody in the lab could have a take on something. And if they don't feel that they have the ability or they don't feel comfortable enough raising raising a counterpoint or challenging something, that can impede good science. We're trying to create an environment where we're building some of those, I would call them power skills, that allow us to really do our best science and do our best work and generate the game-changing medicines.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, again, we're chapter and verse on this stuff together. I think that one of the ways that I will try to speak to that when I hear that critique, because it's a common one, I think, particularly in a resource-constrained startup environment. Science is ultimately the yardstick that we're going to be measured by. Is to just, everybody's had a frustrating career experience, been in an environment where you just felt like things weren't getting done, there was miscommunication, there was rivalries, there was friction, whatever it was that sent you home at the end of the night, sitting on the couch fuming, right? And each one of those is a tax on an organization's productivity. If we're successful, we're going to work well and we're going to work efficiently. And we're going to get the best ideas brought forward from whatever person they're coming from. And all this good stuff's going to happen, which in some ways, it's not going to be apparent where it came from, right? And in some ways, that's almost the point, right? Is you're just trying to unlock people. The potential's there, right? In the individuals and the team. And you're just trying to get us good at being that together.
Couldn't agree more. When I think about Belharra, I hope someday we're going to be known for changing the possibilities of drug discovery, but I also hope that we're going to be known as a place that churned out amazing people leaders. We've got this team that has that potential to do it, and I think the investments we're making are going to have payout, both on the science side and on the kind of future leaders of tomorrow side.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's one of the things that, again, talking about how we recruit, I think we are almost always looking to hire people with that kind of potential. They're able to do what we're hiring them to do, but it's clear they have room for growth and opportunity to step up even more, and we want to help them to bring that. Intentionality is a term we've used a couple times, and I think that's probably the most notable aspect, I think, of the way that you come at this is never take your eye off the ball, right? You're always building culture, maintaining culture, evolving culture, and so do it very thoughtfully, right? And keep that top of mind.
And I think we're trying to embed the things that we care about in everything we do. So it's not like we have a culture program or we have an initiative to focus on our culture. It's just how we want to do things. And so we kind of think about what's the outcome we want, how do we want things to feel for people, and then what are the things we can do or put in place to make it so. And I kind of think about it's like, sculling or rowing, right? It's like you need the coxswain to keep everyone pointed in the same direction. You can have people rowing really hard, but if you're all rowing out of sync, you're not moving anywhere. You're just spinning in circles. And I think if we're aligned and we have that transparency and we've got that shared sense of commitment to what we're doing, and then we're able to overcome those challenges and those obstacles and those hard times and pull together. And that's also where sort of our vibe and culture and kind of the trust that we have in one another, it kind of powers us through the tough times.
Yeah.
And we've been really fortunate so far in every step of the journey, and we've had a lot of fun doing it too. But I think this is a team that's willing to roll up their sleeves and kind of power through tough times as well.
Yeah, and I think it's I agree with all, and I think there's another element of it, which is we talk about sometimes the sort of a meritocracy of ideas, and wanting to have all good ideas brought forward, and then let the ideas kind of battle it out, right? As opposed to, oh, this came from a senior person or this came from a junior person. But also that ideas may come from a non-traditional direction, right? Somebody on the biology team may have some ideas for the proteomics team, and sort of having open ears that are willing to hear that. But also bringing it back to transparency, I think part of the value of transparency and sort of back to making the case for why these things have concrete value is equip everybody with enough understanding of the circumstances, the challenges, and the goals that they can be the source of solutions.
It's so true. I mean, I've heard it time and time again from, different scientists where they'll say, it's really valuable when they understand kind of what's changing. We know what our priorities are, but we're moving fast all the time.
Yeah. And
when things change, when they have that communication and transparency, it helps them to pivot more quickly and understand why they're doing it. And that also helps to keep everyone engaged, right? If you're just constantly being thrown a different fire to put out, or you're just constantly facing different challenges or being asked to take on different tasks and you don't know why, it's really hard to do good work, right? And it's hard to focus your attention in the right way. So I think, the transparency serves to help us all stay aligned and focused and prioritize the right thing.
Would you say there's a trend line in sort of this respect of culture? Are folks tuning in to the perspective that you have and have had for quite a while? Or is this, still something that you feel like you've got to convert people to kind of your perspective on things?
Not because of me, but I do think that there is a trend toward really caring about culture and engagement and people. I think coming out of COVID, it became really apparent how important culture and people are. And I think one of the things that drew me to Belharra and working with you is just that was sort of table stakes for you, and it's hard to find. Well, I guess the opportunity to create an environment from the ground up, right, where it really is just the way we do things, and we really focus on people and transparency and communication and openness, and we believe that is sort of the core to doing great work and having a huge impact.
Kelly, I want to say thank you for taking the time. I also want to just thank you for being a part of this. It's been a privilege, and excited to see what lies ahead for us.
Thanks, Jeff. This has been a lot of fun.
We're back, and we are interviewing a couple more folks. We're speaking with a couple more of my colleagues today. Really excited to be talking to two more of our scientists, Tim and Jaleh from the team. Welcome. It's so good to have you both. Why don't we start with just some backgrounds? Tell me a little bit about yourself and kind of what your background training was, and then we'll talk a little more about how you got here to Belharra. So Jaleh, you want to lead off?
Sure. So I was an undergrad at UCSD. I started my research there at Scripps Research, actually, as an undergrad.
Okay.
I decided to attend Scripps Research as a PhD candidate, where I studied systemic amyloid disease and finding new small molecule therapies for those diseases. From there, I came directly to Belharra, where I am now Scientist 1 in the platform and proteomics team, where I focus on supporting the library screens and hit validation for a lot of our undruggable targets.
Yeah, so you're a little busy.
Yeah.
Tim?
Yeah, so I did my bachelor's in science and biology at UC Santa Barbara. I guess a little unorthodox and a little off the beaten path. Most of the people here are in chemical biology, but I was actually in the ecology, evolution, and marine biology department. I studied how the Colorado state flower actually was evolving over time, and essentially how these genes that might confer a fitness disadvantage was actually a fitness advantage. The professor I was studying under was essentially really interested in this. That segued into me wanting to branch out, getting to experience that out in the field. He wrote me a letter of rec to become a research assistant at Scripps Research. There, during the COVID pandemic, I focused mainly on vaccine development. And that's kind of in this realm where I caught wind of Ben Cravat, all the drug discovery development that he's been doing. And then that's when I got early into Belharra, I think as employee number 9.
Yeah.
And I'm also working not directly with Jaleh, but close to her team in the hit validation space.
Talk more about the vibe, because that's definitely an important part, I think, about Belharra. It's, I think, frankly, part of what makes this place work so well. But you are deeply enmeshed in the research and the team, and maybe you can talk about how that plays out.
Well, I got to say that, a big motivator for me is just to come to work every day to just really support and help my team succeed. Very early days, when I was really green in the drug discovery, chemical biology space, I had a lot of really good mentors: Alessia, Alice, now Esther and Andrew, Chris, Jocelyn, Jaleh too. There's so much effort being put in to help people grow. And so when it's your time to step up to the plate and bat, you want to do that. And so a lot of that's just trust as well. And so just like any healthy relationship, that's the vibe I feel that Belharra has. And it makes employees really want to work hard to help drive decisions and the company forward.
When I got hired 4 months ago maybe, one of the people that I remembered the most was Tim, who was super friendly and super cool and was like, listen, like, if you get hired, Andrew's the best boss here. And so he wasn't wrong.
Yeah,
Andrew
yeah.
is the best boss I've ever had.
Yeah.
But he's right. Like, I want to come to work every day, not only just for the science, but like the environment that we work in is so fun and motivating that even when I'm super busy, I have so much to do, it's not that overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I just, honestly, every day I come in here, I have a great time.
Yeah.
Sometimes when we have three-day weekends, on Monday, I start to miss work a little bit, which is a little crazy.
Yeah.
But I miss the environment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, you know, and we are enjoying that vibe, that kind of interaction with the team, and I think the kind of relaxed environment, the very kind of relational environment that you're pointing to. But with that very intentional belief that that's actually the way that people do their best work, right? And that people are going to rise to that occasion and kind of do it for their colleagues and do it for the team effort. And so that's certainly what Gary and I are trying for, right? We believe that in that kind of a context that we're all going to be our best and we'll help each other be our best. So it's good to hear. So you both come out of really top-notch academic backgrounds, and I mean, Ben's lab and Scripps Research. I mean, these are high-flying places with incredible standards. And there's always a little bit of that joke, right? When you're leaving academia to industry, you're going to the dark side, right? And so how would you sort of characterize the way we do science here relative to the experiences you had before?
I would say in academia, it's a little bit more loose. Like, you're really trying to go after things that no one has really any idea of how it's going to go.
Yeah.
It's more relaxed, for sure. And I do think it absolutely prepared me for this experience. It teaches you how to think and how to solve problems. When I came here, completely different. Super fast-paced, super high throughput. The way that you have to keep track of everything is very stringent because you need to be able to like have someone go back and look at it.
Yeah.
In a way, it's a little overwhelming. I mean, I went from in grad school maybe prepping max 24 samples a day. Now we're at 800.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, it's insane.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it. I think I'm glad I went to the dark side. It was my intention from the first day of grad school.
Yeah.
And it turned out a lot better than I actually thought it would be.
I'll have to say, when I was working at Scripps, I was there for a majority of the COVID pandemic. I worked for a professor who was doing COVID vaccines. And so in a very short amount of time, in less than 2 years, we actually got 4 publications accepted into decent high impact factor journals.
Yeah.
So the intensity there was pretty high. Maybe in ways that were not so much conducive towards creating a very positive culture. Here at Belharra, you know, we do have a lot of people coming out of Scripps Research who haven't been in industry for very long, but have that deep scientific knowledge, right? And so I feel that being here, it very much still feels like I'm learning as if I was in school.
Yeah.
However, the motivation is a lot more positive.
Yeah. Well, part of it that motivates me as well, and I think I'm hearing it sort of in between the lines with you both, is it's this idea that the patients are waiting, right? That we are working on medicines here, right? And it is a long way from here to that, you know, doc giving the patient that therapeutic, but that's what we're about, right? And so it's like, let's keep it going, right? We have an urgency to what we do. Fill in the blank in the sentence for me. When I'm not at Belharra, I'm living my best life doing blank.
Yeah, most of the time surfing.
Nice.
We live in a very, you know, geographically beautiful and lucky, privileged location where we have all these awesome surf breaks around. Here at Belharra, you know, we have a room dedicated to keeping a lot of our surfing equipment.
It's not just the name, yeah.
It's not just the name.
Yeah.
And it's nice, being able to have an early morning surf session, we're right here, right off of the 5, which connects you right to Black's Beach. You can be in the water and at work within 15 minutes. And it provides for a very nice work-life balance. You go, you get your exercise in the morning, you come in, you crush your experiments, you make your slides, you present your data. It's a really efficient and easy way to have a nice work-life balance.
Yeah. We talk sometimes about casual intensity, and that kind of plays into what you're both saying, and you're both kind of chuckling. I mean, what is that? How does that look to you? And the last question for you.
Yeah.
How does that look? I think it looks like everyone is having a really good time, but we're also working very hard at the same time. So I think like in lab, all of us are working really hard, but we have music blasting.
Right.
Like people will take over like the boombox and play their music. Some of us
diversity in music too. You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised.
Some of us are like singing while we're pipetting. Some people are doing huge prep. Some people are running gels, but it's just fun. It's a fun, hard-working environment. And I don't think anyone has to be told to work hard.
Yeah. It's a pretty driven group. I think that's what makes it work. Like we like to do it well, but we also like to have fun doing it. So thank you so much, both of you. I really appreciate taking the time.
Absolutely.
It's good talking.
This was great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
So I'm particularly excited to be welcoming our next guest. He's our in-house food, fashion, and culture consultant who provides us with all kinds of great guidance. Matteo, it's great to have you here, and thank you for joining us. Why don't you start out by introducing yourself a little bit? Kind of, what's your background? Start there.
Yeah, glad to hear that. And, in addition to the science, and also here has
you class the place up. Let's agree.
Yeah, there you go. That's great to be here for multiple reasons. So I used to work in a large pharmaceutical company here in San Diego before joining Belharra, and one of the main reasons why I really decided to join Belharra, I mean, probably a lot of people say about science. To be honest, I wasn't a particularly expert on a platform. I didn't know all the nuances before joining the team. Yeah. What brought me in, it was the people, the environment. The vibe, sure, we're gonna talk about that one in a moment. It's very important. So, I actually realized I want to join Belharra after meeting with Gary and with Alesia. I mean, of course, then I had a chance to meet with you a little later in time. They brought so much enthusiasm about the company. You can really see in their eyes how they believed in that one. Again, that enthusiasm drove me here at the end. Science, it has to be rigorous. It has to be precise. But at the end of the day, is the people that makes you stay where you are.
Give me a sense of what sort of a typical day or typical week looks like in terms of what are some of the things you're really focusing your time and your energy on? Because we talk a lot platform and sort of all this great potential, but there's a very real sort of cutting edge, to what's happening here. And so maybe without giving away too many of the secrets, to give us a sense of maybe a couple of the projects that you're digging in on.
Yeah, just gonna go from the general, and then maybe I'm gonna go into the details a little more. The way I see it, it's a 3-legged stool where the drug discovery sits on top. Yeah. So we have our platform, we have our chemistry, and we have our biology, which I'm mainly involved into. So one is short, the drug discovery tilts.
I love that analogy.
It doesn't.
You should think about hosting podcasts. That's really good.
It doesn't really end well. So part of my day is definitely interacting with the other members of the team, which it's again another great reason for being here, the fact that there is such a close interaction with the chemistry and with the proteomic team. My vision for what I'm trying to do here is to shape some of the Belharra ecosystem to make the science even more rigorous and even more efficient. There is always room for improvement. That's, I think, where my expertise comes in, and that's where I can work on some of these processes and make them more, even more efficient and more rigorous than they are right now. Yeah. In a way that we can go faster to our goals. The 3-legged is always there. So we have all to work together with that part, but that's part of my day-to-day interacting with colleagues in chemistry, colleagues in proteomic, to make sure that we are working side by side and growing those legs at the same speed. We don't fall short on one side. And the drug discovery continues to grow in the right direction.
And that makes a ton of sense. I think that one of the things that's interesting to me about the role that you play and the biology team plays is helping us to decide where to focus, right? Which programs we're actually going to direct energies to, because the proteomics team and the chemistry team are throwing off a whole lot of candidates against really interesting binding sites on proteins, most of which have very compelling theses for why you'd want to drug them. How do you think about that job of really trying to decide that one, right? That's the one that really is sort of showing the right kind of profile that we think has a chance of being a meaningful medicine someday.
It really goes to the importance of data-driven decisions. We have a lot of things coming from proteomics and from chemistry. In a way, it's almost like the tip of the spear. In a way, it becomes like biology at that point, where they have to go through and make sure the assay is consistent, the assay is readable, and the assay is going to give us like the best chance to get the most relevant final drug. That's the final goal, right? So in a way, like that is the best way I can sort of fight. The relevance to me has always been the key throughout my career. I mean, you can get the best compound from chemistry, from proteomic, but if you're not testing it in the right environment, you're not getting the best potential out of it.
Many times we'll talk about following the data, and in truth, I think, particularly for sort of deciding which projects to prioritize, really we're saying follow the biology, right? Do you have the impact on that biology that we think is going to translate meaningfully, in human physiology? And so it's no, you're absolutely right. So talk a little bit about the environment that we're in here, because I think you alluded to it earlier, right? And you've been in other companies. You've sort of we've had a lot of folks come straight out of academia here. We've got a really, really vibrant team with a lot of energy and sort of recent kind of cutting edge experience. You've been able to see industrial settings before, and so tell us about how would you characterize Belharra, and maybe particularly what are some of the things that maybe are unique or working well here?
Well, I'll start with an example. So, how do you feel when the plane takes off? This is the same thing that I'm experiencing here, and I just want to continue to build that momentum. So having that feeling of the machine is taking off. Let's keep them. Let's keep them moving in the same direction. I never experienced something like that before, so again, extremely happy of being here so far. It's been like a great journey.
Matteo, thank you. This has been really great. Appreciate taking the time. It's good talking to you.
Absolutely.
And I'm back talking to my favorite colleague, don't tell anybody else, Jarrett, one of our earliest team members, and we're going to be talking a little bit about his experience coming here. Why don't you lead off introducing yourself and kind of, what was your background before joining Belharra?
I was a postdoc in Ben Kravat's lab at Scripps Research Institute, and fortunately enough, I actually had an opportunity to overlap with Chris Parker, another one of the co-founders. I would routinely talk with Ben, like long term, am I thinking academic, kind of running my own lab, or industry? And for me, it was the science and what I wanted to do was first and foremost, and then it was just like what works with everything else with life. So I wanted to do chemoproteomics. I wanted to work on platform, basically building up a really robust chemoproteomic platform, whether it was in industry or academia. Wasn't as important as actually doing the science. I wanted to be part of building something much bigger than myself.
And you were consulting and sort of helping from day one, right? I mean, way back. So tell us a little bit about that.
Belharra was part of Inception. So it was started in this incubator space with Versant, and very early days it was really just John Tejero and Chris Parker, and then getting Ben and Stuart involved too early on. It was okay, well,
somebody's got to do the work, right? So who are gonna tap, right?
Exactly, yeah. and that's where entity like Inception really came in, and it's okay, let's do the proof of concept experiment, start building out a little bit, and for day one started consulting with them. Then it was a smooth transition. I went from Ben's lab on a Friday afternoon to working for Belharra at Inception on a Monday morning.
How much does the end goal of delivering medicines to patients come into play in day-to-day for you?
Oh, it's fundamental, because even the earliest kind of work that we're doing is focused on, can we identify new ligands, new chemical matter for either undrugged or clinically validated targets that we know if we can impart either some kind of impact on this protein, we're going to have a positive impact on patients. And so that's from the earliest stages.
Well, it's exciting stuff, and we're going to be telling the world about it, I think, someday. But keep it up. There's another tradition here I want to work in because we play a lot with the surf motif, being named after a big wave surf break. But we've also captured this idea of the first part of our name, and so talk a little bit about that and kind of how it is you came to bring the biggest bell to Belharra.
Yeah. So this happened when we were still back in Inception space. I think it was Gary just making a joke about, oh, we have Belharra, so we should have like some little bells, and he brought some in. I was like, no. We need some real cowbell action here.
Capital B bell.
Yeah. And I told him, like, I have a cowbell. And he just
How did you come by a cowbell? Because that's an important part of it. You weren't always just an engineer.
No. Back long time ago. That's actually before engineering days at MIT. I actually grew up on a small family dairy farm in Western Maryland. We had Holsteins, and I got the family into having Brown Swiss. Long story short, did a lot of dairy judging. I was part of the state team in Maryland. We won the national competition at World Dairy Expo. We got to go to Europe.
I didn't know all this.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yep. Had to go
so
to Europe.
we're lucky to have you. I mean, the world could have headed in a totally different direction.
If we need to know anything about cows, I'm the go-to person here.
All right.
So toured Europe, saw a bunch of different dairy farms out there, and then up in the Swiss Alps, actually, I was like, I need a cowbell. I just need a cowbell. And I asked the person we were with, I was like, how much can I pay you in francs?
How much for your cowbell?
Yeah. And he was like, 50 francs. I was like, yes, absolutely. He walked up to the cow, took the cowbell off, gave it to me. I came down the mountain with a cowbell on my shoulder.
The cow's like, hey, what? Come on.
Yeah. I'm sure they have more.
They're all right.
Yep.
And what do we do with the cowbell now?
So as per tradition,
Yeah.
New employees have to go through the gauntlet of just ringing the cowbell. Gary typically likes to encourage unique or enthusiastic modes of ringing said cowbell.
Energetic.
Energetic,
yes.
Yeah,
there we go. Yeah, which we capture on video for posterity's sake. So,
Yep.
Well, that was a big contribution you made. We got to keep that one live. Jarrett, it's been a pleasure. Thanks again for taking time talking with us.
Thank you, Jeff.